Aristophanes that really hit me, and I thought, there it is, this groundlessness. You know, there's a story in an ancient play about birds called The Birds. And it's a short story from before the world began. From a time when there was no earth, no land, only air and birds everywhere. Birds making huge patterns in the air. But the thing was, there was no place to land. One of the birds, the lark, her father dies, and they like panic. Because they have no idea what to do with the body. So they're thinking about what are we possibly going to do? And it was a big question, and it was a new question. Because there's no place to put the body because there was no earth. So anyway, this lark is thinking she can't figure it out, and finally decides to bury her father in the back of her own head. And this was the beginning of memory. Because before that, no one could remember a thing. They were just constantly flying around in circles. This solution was the little fable from 2,000 years ago of what do we do with our parents, and what do we... So I loved that image and made a little story around it, and in Homeland that started the live show. Wasn't really made with themes in mind. You know, I started with where do I live, how do I feel about where I live, kind of impulse, let's say, rather than idea, and went from there. Because I don't really trust, every time I've had a theme idea and I try to fit things into the theme, it's just so dry, and I've done several pieces like that. So I try much more to be more vulnerable than that, not have a great idea, just kind of have a feeling like, it was the same feeling, I thought, I lost something, and then you're much more open to like, what is it? You know, you're looking, and rather than knowing and illustrating, you know, so it's a really different approach, and which is why I tried starting from music, you know, starting from just playing, go out and have a few ideas and play them, see what happens. You know, I spent so much time with her in the very early years, so I have this sort of long historical sense of who she is, how her career's evolved, how her work method, process worked in the beginning, and the threads of that are the same now. This record was not made in the whatever production schedule you use to make a record. It just had nothing to do with that. So it was just playing around for a couple of years.
The beginning of it was really just, quite a bit of listening.
She likes to experiment. She's not afraid of anything. She'll dive into anything. She'll she'll change something, she'll go back, she'll move forward. It's completely artistic.
She had previewed some of the things in a show at Joe's Pub when we discussed maybe working together.
And this evening is going to be kind of like a work in progress. And so we're going to be kind of filling in a few little details here and there.
I had worked on her Strange Angels record as an assistant years ago. We've done things with Arto Lindsay and Marisa Monte and some other artists that have gravitated toward her. It was a big deal to me, and I wanted to really do it in whatever way I could.
I remember the first album. Laurie was looking for a bass line. It was the first project I'd ever worked on where somebody just sat and improvised and noodled and experimented for hours. And at the time I thought, I can't believe this. I can't believe how she has both the patience to sit there and do that and the unself-consciousness to do it in front of people. And all of a sudden, she played the most simple little thing. It was just boom, boom, boom. And it was absolutely perfect. And the engineer and I both leapt up and said, that's it.
It was a slow process in us in getting to know one another and to find our footing and how we can collaborate with one another. I'm a keyboard player also, and I play accordion and all different kinds of acoustic chamber instruments, and she does too. It's just we kind of come from different we come at what we do in different ways.
She'll throw an idea out, and it may be right or wrong, but only she's going to really know that. She's the only one who knows what's right for that, and she's got a really particular vision. And sometimes I may not know what that is. Sometimes she may do something that is abstract, and I might be confused for a second and say, well, okay, I don't understand this, and I won't until it's all done and the process is complete, and she says, well, okay, now there it is.
There's just this way that she communicates that's very open, and you're really called to be yourself when working with her. There's no specifics that she's asking for.
She's pulling away the things that are not necessary to her vision of it while she's building up the vision of it, the realization of it. And it sort of, I think, ends up meeting somewhere in the middle where all these pieces fit in after she's taken away the ones that don't. And it's a three-dimensional graph. it's pretty complicated.
Partly during that time, now we'll start a record, go out on the road, let the live stuff feed into the studio stuff. Well, we tried that for a while.
We recorded some tube and throat singers and their instruments as well for some parts of the early thing. Some of that actually made it to the final record. We had originally tried doing these sort of salons of recording with 3 or 4 different people who didn't necessarily know each other or play together before, but we thought might be nice, and that we did some of that.
There's something that actually resonates with her at a certain point, and we're working to basically get to that place.
There is no blueprint, and if there is, it's a changing blueprint, and that's how she works, and that's how it works for her.
Turning into a record. It was turning into a weird hybrid.
When we started going through the songs, it was apparent that it wasn't ready to be mixed. So we did some additional recording and really took it day by day, and a lot of things she would add things kind of as we were going along. So as we were kind of mixing along, we were recording as we went. So that's just kind of the evolution of how it happened.
For her, the production process is not some separate thing. Like, you write the song, you finish writing the song, you go out on tour, you get a really good version of it with the band, then you get in the studio and you put a big, it's like a big snapshot of the song, and then we stick some other people on it and fix it up. I mean, for her work in her studio and her finding those parts and her having musicians in and then going back and changing her parts based on what other people have played and reworking the song, that for her is what the songwriting is. It's not a separate process.
For a while we were working in chunks, and both of us were busy on other projects. She would be leaving town for shows, and I had some other projects I was involved with, so sometimes I would work with her for maybe 3 days. 1 day, maybe.
I was doing 18 different projects at that time. Exhibitions and visual projects and building a sound garden in Basel and all of this stuff, and so the record was falling farther and farther down the ladder.
We were taking steps forward to complete what we were setting out to do, but it was almost like sometimes, some days we would take 5 steps forward and then we would take a few steps back. And I say that in a positive sense just because there was so much exploration.
It was done in 3 parts. One is on the road, second is road studio, and then at the end of that period, the people I was working on really kind of ran out of time. They were like, it's fun, but I gotta go. So at that point I was like, you do? Oh.
She had a lot at stake with this for some reason. It was in a good way. She really felt really attached to these songs, and she was wanted to make sure it was done right. And of course that goes for every other project she does. But there was a certain attachment that she had, and I can tell she really wanted this to be either 100% perfect or let's not do it at all.
At first, it was one of the worst things that I've ever experienced, because I thought all of this has just been wasted. A lot of the stuff that we tried in the studio, I just threw away, and then started trying to fit live pieces into pre-recorded pieces. Flying live performances from Sweden into another live performance in Rio, and try to justify those over a basic track. And it took every brain cell that I had to do that. And I think in the end, it feels like there are people playing. None of these people had ever played together on this record. They're all flown in. They never were in the same room. It's a totally mental record. It's reconstructed in a way that was I really did think I was going to lose my mind, but in a funny kind of way it made a lot of sense too, because then you gather this just giant football field size of little phrases and you go, what could fit in what song? I mean, I was taking things from other songs, other years, and then constructing songs.
I do a different kind of thing, so I would never get involved in the kind of thing she does. That's not for me. The way she does it, her approach, I go crazy trying to do that.
It was me sitting in a studio with 1 million sound files, and it was so hard. At that point I thought, you know what, I'm going to stop doing this. I can't, because I had to write, engineer, and figure out every technical problem. It was just sitting there staring at a screen with files on it. And I really thought I was going to lose my mind. It was so much stuff. And at that point it was like 25 songs, all in various states of, and everyone had left. And I was like, yeah. Okay, what am I going to do? I was going to give up because it was simply too daunting. and too lonely. So I'm kind of crying about it every day, and it's like, oh, why she said, ooh. And finally Lou said, and that's Lou Reed, the guitar player, and my husband, and my best friend of 19 years. Got a little sick of hearing this, and said, listen, I'm going to sit with you until you finish it. And I said, no, you're joking, right? Yeah. Who would do that?
Sometimes it's useful to have somebody else come in who loves and admires the thing you're working on, but maybe has a little bit of distance. And the author may be so deep in her case, 106 tracks. What do you do with 106 tracks? It's almost...
He became familiar with the Million Little Pieces, and it was a way for me to kind of go, okay, well, it could either go these 6 ways, and you go, number 3.
It's useful it's useful to have someone you could trust who's on your side, not trying to represent the point of view of the record company or their own, whatever it is, just help you get where you wanted to go with the thing as soon as possible.
Lou's idea